Hello, welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I like me some Doctor Who. It's one of my favorite television shows. It's an episode early on in Peter Capaldi's tenure as the Doctor. The Doctor is questioning his own nature, as he often does just after regeneration. Pulls his companion, Clara Oswald, aside and asks a very important question. Am I a good man? And Clara can't answer that for him, not at that point. It takes an entire season to answer that question for the Doctor. We'll get back to his answer later on. Characters in role-playing games often have an advantage over people in the real world. I'm not talking about the being able to cast spells or solve your problems by swinging a sword or anything like that. Now, I'm talking about the fact that there's a slot at the top of the character sheet, quite often, where you list your alignment. You quite often start off with a character who is well aware of whether or not they are a good person, or whose actions can be informed by a set of motivations that are clearly laid out on a two-axis system: lawful to chaotic, good to evil. And that's a pretty big advantage for the most part. I believe this is a lot of personal opinion, but I choose to believe that day to day, most people are trying to do their best. The vast majority of people are trying to do their best. Whether you agree with what their best is, or whether that falls into the category of something they should be doing, they're still trying to do their best by their own measurement, by their own best guess. And a lot of people don't question that. This is my best. It's going to have to do. A lot of people do question this. Is this the best I can do? Am I doing the right thing? Am I a good person? I have a clear knowledge of what they think good is, often, not always. And having a definition of good and or bad, trying to match up what they think and know and believe to their definitions of good and bad. A lot of schools of thought teach that, well, you're never going to hit the mark. You can try your best. You're never going to match your ideal, and that's okay, because it's not about matching the ideal, it's about trying. This vast ambiguity that does exist in the human psyche, in the day-to-day function. You see things that bother you, and you might know why they bother you, or it might take some analysis why they bother you. You might have a pat response as to why a particular thing bothers you. You might have talking points, or you might have a philosophical background or a religious background that informs why things seem good or bad. But there is usually some gray area. Maybe that can get called into question. Maybe there's something that should match your expectations of your own definitions of good and bad, doesn't quite make it. Maybe something is just outside of it by so much that, I don't know. D&D characters very often do not have to face these problems. There is very little ambiguity. There's an alignment system. You know what's good, you know what's bad. You have a general set of definitions, and okay, well, unlawful good, so this is what I do. This is how I feel about that, and that's what happens. I like the discomfort and imbalance of that gray area in a role-playing game, in storytelling. Uh, it's damn uncomfortable in real life. It leads to a lot of introspective moments with a cup of coffee, looking out a window, sitting down, reviewing stuff in my mind, which is an important exercise and a good way to spend an afternoon trying to make sure you got your philosophical feet under you. It's not a terribly good way to entertain everyone at the table. One of the big advantages of role playing games, one of the things that you can do in that storytelling environment. Not everyone plays to plumb the depths of their character. Not everyone plays to find out what the character really made out of. You know, you've got your bonuses and you've got your damage, and you go in and you have your fights and you have your solve your problems, and you get through and you get your XP. There's nothing wrong with that. If you are getting into a somewhat deeper experience, if you're trying to find out what the characters made out of at their core, well, diamonds are created by pressure. Uh, Steel is forged in the destruction of the iron and carbon that came before it. Heat, damage, stress. In crisis, we find truth. You see what someone is made out of when they are put in danger. It's a fairly common trope in fiction and literature, and is has some reflection in the real world. In the real world, you don't really want to spend that time in analysis. You might want to review your actions under stress and see if they really match up with your expectations of yourself. In a role playing game where the player is in a safe environment, but their character is on board an exploding spaceship that is crashing onto a planet covered in a thin layer of nuns and orphans. I've run that game. You see what people are made out of at that moment. You see what those characters are made out of. You might learn a little bit about the players, but you absolutely learn about the characters that they are playing under stress, in danger. When there is so much danger, it's not just them. Oh, they're in danger, but someone else is in danger. There is a crisis that is dealing with them and the people around them, their friends, their enemies, people they don't even know. What do they do? A character was to ask themselves if they're a good person. When that question gets asked, the answer is found under stress. Not necessarily in combat, although combat is one of those universal tools that role playing games use to apply stress. Combat is an easy stressor to apply in a role playing game. People show up expecting a fight, but the game master's bag of stress is deep, nigh infinite, limited only by the paradigm of the world that the game is set in and how much the game master wants to risk genuinely endangering those characters. Meteors coming down. The orphanage is on fire. Someone kicked over a dangerous chemical. Massive traffic jam. The natural disasters, man-made disasters, terrorist attacks, All kinds of things can suddenly happen. It's there's the one thing where, oh, we are going into a situation we know is going to be dangerous. We've got to break into a place, or we've got to get this item back from someone who took it. Those are stressful enough, but that sudden, unexpected, there's a storm, there's a hurricane, there's a fire. Natural disasters are amazing, and man-made disasters. Kaiju attack. Uh, in a game where where you've got the tools for dealing with the kaiju attack is, that fun moment where you're having the battle in the streets of Tokyo, where the characters aren't equipped to deal with a kaiju, and one shows up anyway. There is a giant monster. There's a million people in this city, most of whom are not going to be able to leave before the giant monster comes and starts breathing radioactive fire on it. What do? You can't deal with that. You're some guy. What do? You can probably get out. Got a fast car or super parkour skills. You can get out. Millions of people are gonna die a horrible, crushing death or worse, but you could get out. What do? Are you a good person? And in that time, at that situation, when the rubber meets the road, what does that mean? Are you going to make sure that you can get vengeance on the kaiju for the death of all the people that's about to happen that you don't really think you can do anything about? Or do you put yourself at risk to try and help? Do you really think you can help? Gotta try. You look at characters in literature, often they see a right and a wrong, but even under stress, I'm a big fan of Frodo Baggins. I'm a bigger fan of Samwise Gamgee because Frodo did everything that Frodo could. He pushed himself to his very limit, and then he was tired and he was done. And no one would have blamed him for following the ring into Mount Doom. No one would have blamed him for just sitting down and, okay, it's done. We can stop now. Samwise looked at that and said, it doesn't feel right to just give up yet. I think I'm going to keep trying just a little bit longer. I was getting treated for the cancer. I felt like Frodo a lot, but it was the voice of Samwise in the back of my head that reminded me to breathe every so often. This exploration of, and it's not even an exploration of good and evil, because good and evil in a Dungeons and Dragons role-playing environment is often an objective measure. Everyone's got the same yardstick for what is good and what is evil. It's not about true good and true evil. It's about subjective good and evil. It's about what that character really feels. Everyone tries to be, everyone does their best. Everyone tries to do their best. Whether their best is good or evil, most people consider what they are striving for to be good. People rarely consider themselves to be evil. Oh, I know some who do, but not everyone. It's the exception to the rule I have found. No, this belief is a good belief, and trying to follow it makes me a good person. Am I following it hard enough? Am I a good person? The doctor finds his answer under the most incredible stress. When the master or the mistress at the time has pushed him to his limit, hurt the people that he loves and appreciates, endangered the planet he has sworn to protect, resurrected one of his most dread enemies, and then gave him the option of having all the power he would ever need to enact his will, to do good with this army of resurrected Cybermen. Go free the prisoners in the Dalek prison camps. Go stop the bad guys. You have an army now. You can do whatever you want with it. And that is beautiful. That is stress. You put a character through their paces, you take them to their limits, you let them do everything that they can do, and you push it hard enough that it's not quite enough. And then you make them an offer. Just step to the other side of the line. Just give up what you know is right and take this. And you can have everything. That's stress. That is a unique kind of stress. That is moral stress. That's ethical stress. That is pulling out a character's soul, turning it around nice and slow, having a look at where it hurts the most, and promising it that you will make the pain go away if only they will give up everything they have stood for. And isn't it worth all of your beliefs to undo all the things that hurt you? Spoilers. The Doctor's answer is one of the most informative things I've ever heard about the character. I'm not a good man. I'm not a bad man. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot in a box, just stopping by, just trying to help. The Doctor's a good man. Because when it came right down to it, his measurement was much, much smaller than the vast amount of stress and the huge stakes that had been applied. His measurement was much smaller than armies versus empires and problems spanning all of time and space. His answer was, there's a right thing to do, and I'm going to do that. His answer was to reject the question, ultimately. Getting a character to the point where they have to deal with that. I've done that in role-playing games. I've had characters that were pushed to that point. I've had characters who had that question. I've had characters who should have had that question and were driven to it by events in the game, often by other players. That was some good stuff. I've had players in front of me as a game master who wanted to answer that question. They've had a character they've been playing in other places for a while, and they want to know, what are they made out of? And it's not easy to push a character to those limits. You've got to do some planning. You got to understand the character as well as the player. If not, maybe a little bit better. You have to ask some questions and do some probative adventures. Do some things that tweak a little bit at the edges and the limits, the threads that they're made out of, and finds the one that could unravel everything. Tug on it. Maybe more than once. And when everything comes down to it's all or nothing, this is for all the marbles. Everyone's going to die or no one's going to die. This is where someone could sacrifice themselves or someone could sacrifice everything else. This is where the rubber meets the road. You bring up the question. So, what are you going to do? It's a stereotypical question. It's a question every dungeon master is instructed to ask. You walk into a situation, you see this thing here and that thing there. That looks like it's going to happen. What are you going to do? That question forms the basis of role playing. You've laid out a situation and you've got players in front of you, and now you need to know what their characters are going to do. So you ask them, what are you going to do? It's an innocuous question. It's simple. It's easy. It's innocent until that last moment. Until that last moment where everything is on the line and that character has to stick to their guns, to what they know is right, or let it all go behind them to try and save the greater number. And you look that player right in the eye and you just ask him, what are you going to do? That's a good moment for a game master. That's a great moment for a player, because that's when you find out. That can be the end of a campaign. That can be an entire story arc all in and of itself, while other stuff is going on. Now, the other players don't even need to know that's happening, or maybe they do. Maybe the character is confided with other characters in the group to find out how they think they should handle it, or get their opinions, or can you help me out with something? I'm having this thing, and this is where everyone can come together and offer their encouragement or give their suggestion. But at that last moment, it's that character. It's their decision. It's everything that they've been trying to live up to. This is the moment that they have been training for their entire life. Their belief system has focused on what happens when this happens. And what are they going to do? And the best part is that you don't know. Nobody knows. The player doesn't know. The game master doesn't know. Nobody knows. Until you get there, the player might have a pretty good idea. Well, if this ever happens, I'm probably going to do this. But then you're in that moment. You've got some adrenaline going, and there's chemicals flowing in your brain. There's people looking at you, and there's all this stress, and there's dramatic tension built up. And now it's as real as it gets when you're over dice and paper. And what are you going to do? Some computer games have gotten pretty good at simulating this experience to a degree. First, a Deus Ex Human Revolution comes to mind, because you have a choice to make at the end, depending on what options you've managed to pursue. And there's a certain amount of that. Well, you could do this, and this will happen, or you could do this, and this will happen, or you could do this, and this happens. And then the game hangs until you make a choice. What are you going to do? Of course, there you can save and go back and make another choice if you don't like how that goes. And you try and play for the good ending or the bad ending. And as powerful as those moments are in the narrative of a computer game, at the table, dice hot, character sheet down, and there's not a roll in the world you can make. You can You can try and, I got a D20 here. Tell you what, on a 1 to 10, I'll go this way. On a 11 to 20, I'll go that way. You can make the decision like that. It's not how I prefer to do it. And I rarely see people take that way out. I've seen them make saves to try and summon the courage to do the right thing. My character is not morally strong. This is potentially very bad. Can I give you a wisdom save? Make it 15. This is a rough call. And then dealing with the results of that, that's one option. Or just, what are they going to do? If you're a player and you're looking for this kind of moment, let your game master know. Maybe aside, make that, if it's not something you've figured out by session 0, maybe as the game goes along, I'd like to explore this with my character. I'm a little odd on how this is going to go. I don't know this. Could we explore that a little bit? Game masters, if someone wants to go this route and extend on this character, oh, geez, go for it. Oh, you'll never have a better day. It takes a little effort. It is so worth it. You're going to be pushing the characters anyway. Go ahead and push. Push as hard as you like. See what it takes to make them break. See, you're going to be surprised. It's more than you think. And when they're at that moment, when it's like, well, what do I do? And you look at them and go, oh no. What do you do? Let them have that moment. Let them have that soliloquy, the little speech. Let them have that speaking out their introspection. Let it come out. Help them out with it a little bit. Give some nudges and suggestions. But this is their moment. This is what they've been trying to get to. And oh man, ham it up. All the world's a stage, all the men and women merely players, but those are your players and this is your stage. Make it good. Make it good. Make it dramatic. Play it up. And you will have one of those stories you'll be telling 10 years down the line. It's the stuff of legends when it comes to this. It's the stuff that builds the mythology of that game you've just played and games you will play from that point on. And then you get to ask the question, am I a good GM? And then let your players answer that one. Well, thank you for following me along with this particular rant. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you have any other ideas about things you would like to hear me talk about, topics you'd like to hear me cover, go ahead and leave me a comment below. I will love getting your comments. You will love leaving me one. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, why not? My channel is awesome. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you do, tag the little bell notification button next to it so you're alerted when my videos become available. If you'd like to help the channel out in a more substantial manner, I invite you to hit me up my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps. Allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of Decorum.